Welcome. You are about to take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition show. For the next hour, allow her to prepare you in becoming a magnet for a profound love-infused relationship by identifying and focusing on solutions through love. Awaken the light within and let your essence shine. And now, here's Deborah Beauvais on Love by Intuition, all part of the Dream Vision 7 radio network.
Welcome, everyone. Bonjour, mes amis. And yes, here I am, Deborah Beauvais, founder and owner of the syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network, as well as the Kids for Love project and this Love by Intuition show, which is 21 years old. It surprises me even thinking about it. Well, we have an excellent guest for you today, and you may have heard about him previously because we're doing a series, and that series is all about Phil George. He is a clinical biochemist, and he has all kinds of interesting topics and ways of looking at illness. He is not one to bring out the pills, if that makes sense. A little bit about him, because he has a show with us as well. He's on Dream Vision 7 radio network every Wednesday, 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. Eastern Time, so you can tune in, and you can even do a search on his name, Phil George, easy to know, and a lot of the different shows that he's been a guest on, you can listen or watch that as well. This is a live show today, and I welcome everyone to call in, ask Phil a question, and there's certainly a lot to ask. Bob is in the house, so he will be the one to put you right through. So our number, 833-220-1200. Again, 833-220-1200. Don't be shy. Okay, and Phil's show, by the way, is called Wellness Wave Radio, LLC, with Phil George. He has spent most of his life educating and helping clients live a healthier, more fulfilling life. He's a clinical biochemist, as I mentioned, a certified personal trainer and health coach. He understands the mechanism of action, or what is causing the problem, as opposed to just throwing medications at the illness. A lot of his clients and listeners say that he makes complicated subjects much easier to understand, and I agree with that totally. He has been hired by a veterans group to give seminars, as well as giving senior centers and other groups in New England all kinds of experience in those seminars. He hosts a popular radio and TV show in central Massachusetts, and it's, again, Wellness Wave Radio, and it's on WCRN right in Boston. A couple things I want to mention, too, before we bring Phil in, is he has a number of affiliations. He's on the Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners, Nutrition Coalition, Root Cause Practitioners, and if you want to get in touch with him, he likes you to email. It's philgeorge@charter.net, which is a little different, charter.net. Okay, Phil, welcome to the show.
It's great. It's great to be back, Deborah. It's always a lot of fun when you and I get together.
Yes, and our topic today is thank you, by the way, 1 out of 4 Americans has fatty liver disease, and they don't even know it. And a lot of people may not even know what that is. So let's start off with you explaining what is NAFLD.
Okay, well, it's interesting. Most people have heard of cirrhosis of the liver. Okay, where basically your liver gets scarred, inflamed. Right. And up until probably the last 30 to 40 years, almost always that was what they call alcoholic fatty liver disease. Most people know if you drink too much, it's going to do a job on your liver. And so the stages are, you come down with fatty liver, then it progresses until cirrhosis, and many times that will progress into cancer. And it's not good to have cancer in your liver. You don't survive well from cancer. But a recent phenomena is what's called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. That's abbreviated NAF, NAFLD. So the reason most people, like most diseases, Deborah, it doesn't happen one morning you wake up and you're sick, or you got cancer, you got diabetes. These are very slow processes. It just doesn't happen. It's usually just like smokers, right? Smokers
Sure.
Going to come down with lung cancer. I mean, all these diseases are basically progressive. They come over a period of time. So the whole point is try. But some of these diseases are very insidious, like non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. There are really no symptoms per se until you're at a very advanced stage of it. And it kind of does what it said it is, Deborah. It's fat in the liver. The analogy I like to make, Deborah, if you have a nice piece of steak and it's nice and lean, it's kind of solid, right, Deborah? You don't see any fat in there, right? It's nice and lean, no fat at all. But if you get a marble steak, you see all the fat deposits in there, right? Little fats all over the place. And the other thing. So, Deborah, from France, right? What do they call that thing where they feed the goose a whole bunch of sugar or fat, and they get the fatty liver, and they give it, is it pate or something like that?
Oh, I'm not aware. I'm not up on that.
Okay. Well, anyway, they specifically make it because it tastes good. Now, the goose doesn't normally have a fatty liver. They put something on the poor goose's throat, and it puts a lot of fat and carbs into it. And then it's very tasty. So that's basically what we're doing. We don't have a funnel down our throat, but we're eating. It's not really the fat that's causing. It may sound counterintuitive. It's not really the fat that's causing the fatty liver disease. It's the carbs and the sugar. And I could get into, and again, that's my forte, what they call mechanism of action. So I want to understand the mechanism of action, why it happens, and how to prevent it. Okay.
Correct. Right. That's what I want to know.
Okay. Before I do that, I wanted to mention a couple of things. We haven't spoken in a while, but I got kind of a good news that actually relates to this. So I was contacted by the largest diabetic holistic clinic in the South, and we're going to team up. And in other words, as opposed to most like the Joslin Diabetes Association, stuff like that, that's what they call allopathic. They do the same thing over and over again. So this is holistic or functional medicine doctors, where they're looking for different things. I've had several phone calls, Zoom calls with them, and we're going to team up because what they found is they have a lot of different ways. And actually, even though it may sound like it's not related to this, but everything is related to insulin resistance and diabetes, and so is the fatty liver disease, related to the same thing. It all starts with insulin resistance and sugar turning into fat. Basically in your body. So what they said was they were able to get these people. They put IVs in them. They do different things, and they're able to get their hemoglobin A1C, which is the measure of 3 months of insulin in your red blood cells, or your fasting insulin down. And they got them off of the metformin and the other drugs. But they said the problem they had was people go back to their old habits, right, Deborah? They go back to the donuts and the stuff like that. So, you cured me now. I'm going to go back to my old lifestyle. So they come back in 3 or 4 months and they have to start all over again. So that's kind of what they brought me in for. They brought me in to kind of keep people on track. You know what I mean? To keep them so they don't come down with fatty liver disease or type 2 diabetes again. So these things all relate back to insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes. And not only myself, but a lot of other clinicians have actually gotten people reverse type 2 diabetes. Again, this is not medical advice, but I've done this, and I can certainly There are a lot of people out there other than myself. One of them is Jason Fong. He's a nephrologist, and he has whole clinics going around how to reverse type 2 diabetes. And again, that relates directly to the fatty liver disease. So those two could go hand in hand. So it's the two are connected. It's not one.
So does someone have to, if I may interject, if someone is a diabetic, do they have to be a diabetic in order to have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease?
Good question. No, they do not. You can still have the fatty liver disease without it. But normally, what happens with that is you're getting close to it in terms of the type 2 diabetes, or really what's called insulin resistance. That just means that your cells cannot uptake insulin it cannot take blood sugar up very well. Insulin is basically, it's getting resistant to it. So I call it insulin resistance. That's the precursor to type 2 diabetes. That's the precursor to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, or what they call metabolic syndrome, where you've got obesity, you've got high insulin, you got high blood sugar, you got high blood pressure. It's basically called metabolic disease, and a lot of Americans have that. So these things all go hand in hand.
Another question I have is it if your parents are alcoholics and it's in the family, are you more apt to end up with the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, or it has nothing to do with genetics or those types of things?
No, it absolutely has to do. Give your example. So there is a specific gene. Actually, it's called the polymorphism. It just means it's a part of the gene. And everybody has this. The analogy I make in my seminars is we're all dealt a hand in life, like poker, right? Some are good cards, some are bad cards. Right. So there's a really good book called Bad Genes, and they talk about that. So you may have a gene, an addiction gene. In fact, interesting, I had my whole genome sequenced a while ago, and I do have an addiction gene, Deborah. In other words, I'm very susceptible to being addicted to things. And a good example with me is, at one time, I consider myself a functional alcoholic. In other words, I was drinking all the time, Deborah. I loved to drink when I was a kid.
You did?
Oh, yeah, I loved to drink.
I don't know. For some reason, I don't see you doing that.
Well, I don't do it anymore. So, what happened is, it's like you. I kind of had an epiphany in my life, Deborah, where I said, unless I kick this drinking habit, I'm never going to evolve as a human being, because I was a slave to the booze. Okay. Mm-hmm. I never was pulled up for DWI. I was working every day, but my life revolved around drinking, Deborah. Give you a good example. I don't know if you remember, Deborah. Have you lived in Massachusetts your whole life?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you remember the blue laws?
I'm familiar with the name.
Okay. The blue laws mean they would not sell alcohol on Sundays. You could not buy alcohol in Massachusetts, we call it a package store.
Right.
So I was so bad, Deborah. I was so bad in terms of drinking that I would drive up to New Hampshire if I ran out of beer. That's how bad I was.
Oh, my gosh.
So my whole life revolved around drinking, and I knew because I was a biochemist back then. I knew basically that you can metabolize 1 ounce of alcohol per hour by your liver. So before I went to work, I made sure I give myself, if I drank, and there's about an ounce of alcohol in a can of beer, I would make sure that it was cleared from my system before I went to work. That's how bad I was. So. And the other thing, they have the bottle laws here, where you put you get a 5-cent deposit on the beer. So I bring in my returns and I get a beer, and each time I win, I said, this is going to be my last time. Right? This is going to be my last time. And so I turned around, and one time I actually did it, and I'm not doing it anymore. I went cold turkey. I just stopped drinking, and to this day I don't drink anymore. So
and what brought you to that level? So
I just knew I couldn't evolve as a human being unless
And that was more important to you.
Oh, absolutely. Well, the alcohol was really important, but it was more important for me to evolve. I mean, I was a very health conscious. I played tennis. I played sport. I mean, I was a very, very health conscious person, but I knew, but it's an addiction. And again, I had that addiction gene. I just thank God I never tried cocaine, because I'd probably be living in the street right now, because I get that addiction gene. My whole family has it.
And may I ask, what test did you take to find out about that gene?
It's basically you have your genome sequence. 23andMe is bankrupt now, but there's a lot of companies. There's DNA analysis, and they can send you all the genes that you have. There's one gene for Alzheimer's. There's one gene for there's a gene for virtually everything that you can check out, and it lets you know. And that way you know going in where your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, So,
okay. So it's similar to those that take the test to find out if they have the gene that would create breast cancer, say.
The BRCA gene, exactly. That's exactly right. So
and let me ask you a question on that, too, and then I'll be quiet. But is it better to know or not know?
Oh, it's absolutely better to know. Okay, I'll give you a good example. There's a very famous biochemist. She's a research biochemist. Her name is Rhonda Patrick, and she's all over the place. And anyway, so what happens with there's a gene for Alzheimer's. Okay, now going back to your basically genetics in high school. There's something called homozygous, which means two of the same gene, like homo is the same, and heterozygous. So if you have heterozygous of this ApoE4 gene, you have about a 30% chance of coming down. This is genetic, coming down with Alzheimer's. Okay, so it's pretty high. If you have a homozygous gene of double dose of it, you have like a 60% chance. So it's huge. So Rhonda Patrick knows that she has this, so she's very, very careful in terms of keeping her brain clean, okay? In other words, a good example, I know we're getting off topic here, but I think this is helpful. So deep sleep is very, very important for you. And they found out that people don't sleep well have a much higher incidence of Alzheimer's and dementia. And the reason for that, again, I'm root cause practitioner, what causes the root? You have something in your spinal fluid. It's called a glymphatic fluid, not to be confused with lymphatic, with an L. This is with a G. So only during deep sleep, what happens is this glymphatic fluid goes in your brain and cleans out all the amyloid plaque and the tau tangles. So she has to be very careful that she's getting just the right amount of sleep each night. And I have something called an Oura Ring. And Oura Ring measures, also you have the Whoop and you have all kinds of Apple Watch and stuff will tell you that. So I'm very careful to make sure I get enough deep sleep. I don't have this ApoE4 gene, but basically it's it lets you know. So you're going to be real careful. Going to be careful, not to drink not to have too many carbs, because you heard they're calling Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. Because it's too much, it's insulin resistance in the brain, on the blood-brain barrier. So she has to really watch herself. So absolutely, I think you should know what genes you are dealt it in life and how to watch out for it. So I think knowing your genome really gives you a big edge up.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I mean, it's a personal decision, of course, but one can see the advantages. That and
so the other thing is, and then there are good genes too, where you know that basically you get you're more. There's all kinds of genes out there, but if everybody, again, some people may not want to know what they have. I understand that, but if you lead as clean of a diet and clean of a lifestyle as you possibly can, then I think you'll be good.
Okay.
Okay. I went off topic again. I do this all the time, but
yes.
I find sometimes just going off topic, it's something. What I say at the beginning of each of my shows, Deb, you know this. My goal is to give you at least one suggestion that will make your life a little better. So I'm hoping to give you more than one suggestion here. But if any of those things resonated with anybody, then hopefully that'll help them.
Right. Absolutely. So we have just a couple minutes before we go to break. Do you want to pick up where you left off before my questions?
Yeah. I can pick up after the break. I'll do it, whatever works for you.
Sure. All right. Well, let's do this. Let's take a break now. And everyone stay with us. We'll be back in 3 minutes, and we'll be talking with Phil George.
Okay.
Experience a different yet profound healing with Reconnective Healing. Includes yet expands beyond any and all known forms of energy healing. The Reconnective Healing spectrum is comprised of the full healing and evolutionary continuum of energy, light, and information. It allows for healings that are not just physical, not just mental, not just emotional, yet go beyond that to bring healing that includes the evolution of your very being and essence. Deborah Beauvais, trained and certified by world-renowned Dr. Eric Pearl, offers appointment hours at Seekonk Family Chiropractic in Seekonk, Massachusetts. For questions or to set up both distance or local sessions, call Deborah at 508-431-1959. Again, 508-431-1959. Or go to lovebyintuition.com. That's lovebyintuition.com.
Calling all authors. Have you been considering an audiobook? Well, look no further. Come take advantage of Dream Vision 7 Radio Network's unique in-house audiobook production, which includes benefits and bonuses from our radio station. Let our knowledgeable staff guide you to create the audiobook you've always dreamed of without breaking the bank. Check out our full one-stop service from A to Z, including the ACX process. Schedule a free consultation by calling 508-226-1723. That's 508-226-1723. Or go to dreamvision7radio.com.
After narrowly surviving the attack on Sandy Hook Elementary, first-grade teacher Caitlin Royd DeVellis was left searching for answers that would never come. Eventually, she chose to focus on questions that could be answered. How do I make sure this tragedy doesn't define us? How do we get our control back? Those two questions led her to found the 501c3 nonprofit organization Classes for Classes. When gifts poured into their classroom, she decided they would help someone else by paying it forward and being kind. This developed into a social network which allows K-8 classrooms to connect so that every student in the United States can learn these crucial lessons. Classes for Classes' mission is to build students' social-emotional intelligence by connecting them to care. All C4C projects are crowd-funded. Any teacher in the U.S. can visit classesforclasses.org. That's classes, the number 4, classes.org. Sign up today.
Delight your kids with an enchanting journey by reading the Paper Doll Kids children's book by Deborah Beauvais and Janine Sullivan. There's even a catchy tune, Kids for Love Song, produced by Bob Sherwood and sung by kids just like yours. The story weaves around 7 paper dolls flying around the world doing good deeds as they bring important attention to our endangered animal friends. There's even a magical ring with a universal message. Kids become interested in service projects, action through compassion, and planting seeds that nurture positive change. The Paper Doll Kids and Kids for Love Song are a production of the Kids for Love Project. Get the book now on Amazon Kindle and the song on CD Baby or iTunes.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
And we are back, and speaking of all our shows, we are heard worldwide. If you get the apps, you can listen whether you're in the car, whether you're online. You can ask Alexa to play Dream Vision 7 Radio. So that whatever you have with your technology, you can listen to us anytime during the day, 7 days a week. And we have on Sunday what we call Divine Music Sundays. And we have some amazing local artists and those that have won Grammys. We are with Phil George. He is a clinical biochemist. We're doing a series, and this is the third show of the series, and we are actually talking about non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and it all comes from the base of sugar and carbs from what we're talking about. One of the things that I would wonder, Phil, is it more prevalent now, or is it just that we didn't know enough about it?
No, much more prevalent. The first seminar I do when I do seminars is called 50 Years of Madness, and that's what I do. I back it up about 50 years, and I started off. A good example is I get pictures of people from the 50s on the beach, and nobody's overweight, okay? I don't know about you, Deborah. When I was in school, they were lucky if one kid was overweight. Now it's common, obesity in children. A lot of these diseases are diseases of modernity. Basically new stuff that we haven't seen before. I don't know about you. We had no peanut allergies when I was in school. None of that stuff. So
right.
Yet non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is new. The other thing is now they're calling it type 2 diabetes. But Deborah, if you remember when we were young, they used to call it adult onset diabetes. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So
they had to change the name because so many kids were coming down with it. So it's to do with our lifestyle, mostly to do with nutrition. So
or the lack of.
Yeah, good point. But before I get I want to just mention a couple things that are useful for people. So again, I'm a clinical biochemist, so people need to know what this is. My undergrad's in biochemistry. I also have a degree in clinical biochemistry, and that just means that I deal with basically lab results related to pathologies or illnesses. So when you come in, I would wind up doing your lab test. If you need to cross-match blood, I did almost every test. And I also would train physicians in terms of lab procedures. So this is kind of my field specifically, is lab tests. So I want to jump on that. So the best way to find out if you're in bad shape, all of the organs in your body give off what they call enzymes. And that just means, if you have a heart attack, they'll do what they call cardiac enzymes. It means your heart is strained and it's giving off like danger signals. And they can see the disease, the amount the amount of damage to your heart based on these cardiac enzymes. So liver has the same thing. They give off enzymes. Pancreas gives off enzymes. All different organs give off enzymes. So the two enzymes that the liver gives off is something called AST, and that A is in apple, S is in Sam, T is in top, and ALT. A is in apple, L is in low, T is in Tom. Those two enzymes, if those are elevated slightly, it could be the beginning of fatty liver disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Okay, So those what those two tests mean. So a lot of clients come to me and they'll email me their lab test, and I'm looking at all these lab tests to see what direction they're going in. If those two enzymes, those liver enzymes, happen to start getting elevated, then I'd want them to have what's called an MRI of their liver done. Magnetic imaging, and then they can see. We talked before about the steak being no fat in it, and they're going to be able to see little pockets of fat in your liver. Okay, and then you want to start doing something because you don't want that to progress to cirrhosis and things like that. So just off the top. So if you have a lab test, and a lot of people only have it once a year. If your doctor will go with it, I would try to do it every 3 months, as long as it's not too cost prohibitive. So you want to know, you can't change what you don't measure, and lab work, blood work is the best way to measure that. So again, it's not just you're not just dealing with fatty liver disease. If you follow these particular protocols, it's going to take care of what they call metabolic syndrome, high blood pressure, your diabetes, obesity, everything. So I like this expression, Deborah. There's an expression in biology, and it says, nothing makes sense in biology except through the lens of evolution. I like to say we're basically smart monkeys, Deborah. 99% of our DNA is shared with a chimpanzee. Okay, so we're really just smart animals. Some people say we're not that smart because there's not too many obese chimpanzees. So I don't know how smart we are. But anyway. So,
well, it goes back to with the system that we have, the food system, because you can get to the root cause of whether you have this fatty liver disease or not, or heart disease or anything else. But as you know, what happens is if we're not cleaning up our water and we're not cleaning up our food system, I mean, with all the genetically modified foods, that's why a lot of people, including myself, end up with celiac. All these things that happen because we have, everything that we use has chemicals in it, more chemicals in this country than others. And then you got glyphosate and just about everything to be out in the yard with. So it's exhausting. I find it just exhausting to try to clean up and eat clean and find clean food and clean products.
I agree, Deborah. We're also living in a toxic soup. So
yes,
we got what they call non-native EMF. We got all these electronic things coming off, bombarding us. We're living in blue light, which isn't good for us. Everything's blue light, and we're not used to that. Light bulb's only been around 120 years. We haven't adapted to that yet. Again, we've been around millions of years, Deborah. Only the last 50, 100 years or so, our body cannot adapt to all of these. Our body's not used to these toxins you're talking about.
Right.
But the other thing I wanted to this not only goes for if you clear up the fatty liver disease, you're going to clear up pretty much all of your metabolic problems. So there's a really good book if people want to read it. It says Nature Wants Us to Be Fat. And this is written by Richard Johnson. He's an MD, and he also written another really good book called The Fat Switch. And what he's saying is, again, if you go back, we go back millions of years. So we're adapted. Our main purpose as a smart monkey is not to die. We don't want to die. So our body will do whatever it can, basically wants us to survive. So what happens is when we were Neanderthals, we were walking around. When we woke up in the morning, Deborah, the food we didn't have a refrigerator, right? We didn't have scrambled eggs. We couldn't go to the supermarket and buy food. So we had to go out and hunt. And so we've only had supermarkets and stuff like that for the last 50 years or so. We had food nonstop. We had to go extended periods of time without eating, Deborah, long periods of time. So what would happen is, in order for us not to die, we had to basically store fat, In other words, getting ready, just like the grizzly bear for the long winter, right? We had to store the fat so we could go through that long winter. Because even during the winter time, there's no plants to eat, so we had to kill a rabbit or something to eat. So our bodies adapted basically to store fat, okay, and then to burn that fat when we had to go extended periods of time. So this is our normal cycle. So again, a little bit of biochemistry. We can only be in one of two states, Deborah. We can either be in what's called an anabolic state, which like anabolic steroids, which means we're building, we're feeding, and we're building muscle, we're building, and we're storing fat. Or we can be what's called in a catabolic state, which means we're breaking down fat, and we're using the fat for fuel. Okay. So there's two forms of fuel we can use, Deborah. One of them is glucose. Obviously, we know that. And the other one is fat. Now, the fat breaks down into something called ketones, or specifically beta-hydroxybutyrate. And most people have heard of that, the ketogenic diet. Okay, so those are the two forms of fuel. We're used to living off of our fat stores most of the time, okay, because we went for millions of years, we went long periods of time without eating. So we're used to that. That's where our body is hardwired. Our genetics are hardwired for that. We're not hardwired to be eating nonstop, and that's why this book says Nature Wants Us to Be Fat. So our brain is hardwired, even into our brain with dopamine. Every time we get something sweet, like sugar, anything high in carbs that has what they call a high glycemic index, and all that means is it raises your blood sugar, insulin right away. what that does, it sends that into the cells to store it as fat. Again, getting ready for the long winter. That's what we're hardwired to do. Mm-hmm. But not many people now go extended periods of time without eating. That's just about unheard of in this country, right? We're eating 24/7. We're snacking. We're eating 3 meals a day. We're eating between meals. We do everything else. Our body is doing exactly what it's designed to do. It's taking those calories and storing them into fat. Okay? Mm-hmm. You with me so far? Am I getting too,
yes, sir.
Too technical?
No, you're good. I'm good.
Okay. So what happens is this. So what happens? Your liver it stores. What happens when you take in any kind of carbs or sugar? The first thing it does is it basically wants to store it again because we're getting ready for the long winter. So it stores in your liver under something called glycogen. So glycogen is a storage form of sugar. Okay. The analogy I make is this, Deborah. Let's say you had some water, but you couldn't leave it out for some reason. It was going to evaporate. So you put it in your freezer and you stored it as ice, right? So it's sitting in your freezer in ice cube trays. So that's analogous to glycogen, okay, in your liver. So it's a storage form. It's glucose molecules all bound together, kind of like ice, like water and ice bound together. But it can only store so much, okay? And then what happens is, just like if you try to put too many ice cube trays in your freezer, they will start falling out. So all of a sudden, you have your liver is totally full of the glycogen, the storage form of glucose, and you keep eating, Deborah, right? You keep eating. You keep eating. All of a sudden, you got no place to put that sugar because your fat cells are full already because you're insulin resistant, you're obese. Your fat cells can only store so much, and then they can't store anymore. So you have no place for the sugar to go. So what the liver does then, it changes the glycogen into triglycerides, and that's a fatty form. That's a fat, okay? And that's actually, you guys heard of lipid like cholesterol, and cholesterol being bad, LDL being bad. Actually, triglycerides in most cases are much worse. They're much more atherogenic. So that causes all kinds of problems. So as you keep eating, as you keep going into this anabolism, keep eating, the liver has no choice but to turn around and to turn that more and more into the triglycerides. And so what you're seeing in the fat, like the fat and the meat, what you're seeing actually is a tremendous amount of triglycerides. So that's how you come down with fatty liver disease. It's not from the fat you're eating. It's from the carbs. It's from the carbs and the sugar that you're eating. Now, does that make sense, Deborah?
Yes, and that's it kind of goes back to a lot of other things within the body. They can only function so well without a lot of sugar and carbs, which they're all both the same, and yet the average human being does have quite a bit of carbs in their diet.
Oh, the average American, the average American has God knows. Do you remember that old documentary, Super Size Me? When the guy was eating McDonald's as an experiment. Do you remember that one? Anyway.
No.
Okay. It's really, in fact, unfortunately, this gentleman passed away not that long ago. He was a documentary maker, and he ate all of his meals at McDonald's basically nonstop. But before he went in, he was in good shape. His weight was okay. And he every month or so, the doctor would do a blood analysis on him. And long story short, the doctor told him if you keep eating like this, it's going to kill you, basically. Not that it killed him. I think he died of something else. But again, then I think it's another called fast food nation, where we're so used to going in there and just eating and just eating bad stuff over and over again because it's easy.
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Can healthy people, are you saying that healthy people, maybe they do eat carbs, but they're healthy carbs?
Yeah.
And could they still end up with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease?
A lot less likely. The reason is, Deborah, is because again there's it's the high glycemic. So in other words, if you're eating all vegetables are carbs, okay, they're still carbs, but they're basically they're healthy carbs because they metabolize, your body metabolizes them a lot slower. In other words, because they have so much fiber in them, it breaks off a little bit of glucose at a time, so your body can handle it. It doesn't cause the insulin resistance. It doesn't cause the spike in insulin. Okay, so that's the problem. So if you're eating, you're eating vegetables, you're eating fruit and things like that in normal amounts. But again, the fruit is what they call chelated. In other words, the fructose is bound to something. So it's slow release. It's like a slow release, as opposed to if you have a bagel, you have a donut, that's fast release. It raises your insulin really, really quickly, and your body has no choice but to store that. So yeah, there are healthy carbs, and then there are high glycemic, also cause high glycemic index, high glycemic load, and you can look online and they have charts on what's got. And I think like pure sucrose is, I think, or pure glucose is like 100. Okay, and I don't know. And let's just say I'm picking this number. This isn't correct. Let's just say that that broccoli is 50. You know what I'm saying? They're all carbs, but they're absorbed much more slowly into the body.
And I love broccoli. And I eat broccoli in the morning with my bananas. But I love bananas as well. But it's time for another break. Everyone, it's not too late to call in. Bob is in the house waiting for your call. The number is 833-220-1200. When we come back, Phil, if we can talk about some strategies to combat inflammation so the liver is supported. So everyone, back in a couple minutes.
Take a journey to a place of the divine love within with Deborah Beauvais on the Love by Intuition Show, Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. Eastern. Our message is love in the purest form. The light within us all is a guide to recall our beginning, to learn to love self and humankind, and to feel the higher power of our own divinity. To attract love, one needs to be loved. Come join us and step into this glorious vibration called love.
Delight your kids with an enchanting journey by reading the Paper Doll Kids children's book by Deborah Beauvais and Janine Sullivan. There's even a catchy tune, Kids for Love Song, produced by Bob Sherwood and sung by kids just like yours. The story weaves around 7 paper dolls flying around the world doing good deeds as they bring important attention to our endangered animal friends. There's even a magical ring with a universal message. Kids become interested in service projects, action through compassion, and planting seeds that nurture positive change. The Paper Doll Kids and Kids for Love Song are a production of the Kids for Love Project. Get the book now on Amazon Kindle and the song on Feedy Baby or iTunes.
Are miracles real? Can you move from mayhem to miracles? 30 prominent authors say yes as they share their high fives and down lows of challenges, abuse, addiction, and love. Experience hope, the magic elixir of miracles, through the personal stories of New York Times best-selling authors James Redfield, Dr. Bernie Siegel, Sister Jenna, Reverend Temple Hayes, and many more. If you like bestsellers, chaos to clarity, and crappy to happy, you'll love crying and laughing through mayhem to miracles. Sacred stories of transformational hope. Available now on Amazon and in bookstores worldwide.
It's a child's job to play, to learn, and to have fun. It's an adult's job to keep them safe. Did you know that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused before the age of 18? Every day, families enter the Children's Advocacy Center because a child's courage to tell someone what happened to them. Keeping our children safe starts with a conversation. This is Michelle Aranger, Executive Director of the Children's Advocacy Center. Learn more on how to keep your child safe. Visit cacofbc.org. This message made possible by the Fall River Rotary Club.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
We actually have a contest going on right now. It's the month of May, and we are in our 7th annual contest that is called Extravaganza, and we are giving away for 2 months a free show to 2 winners. There's all kinds of details and things, so you can go on our site, Dream Visions, all one word with an S on the end, the number 7radio.com, and right at the top of the site you'll see the 7th annual Extravaganza. We also would love for everyone to tune in for Phil's show. It's every Wednesday here at Dream Vision 7, and it's 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. And if you really want to get into all the details of what he shares and understand it from a biochemist point of view, then listen to his show. He has a number of them. You can go on his archives. You can listen on demand or tune in live on the 11 and 11. And while you're at it, listen to everyone else. If you want to connect with Phil, you can go and email him. It's philgeorge@charter, CHARTER.net. It's a little different, philgeorge@charter.net, and his website is wellnesswave.net, wellnesswave.net. Okay, Phil, so do you have some effective strategies to combat inflammation? Because obviously the sugar hitting the liver and it's trying to store fat, but it can't store fat forever, so it's going to burst, right? I don't know if it's going to burst, but we might burst.
Yeah, you're going to feel like you're going to burst. But actually, when you mentioned that, if anybody, it was interesting because again, with my show, I get people do call in, and I had one gentleman call in, and he said, "Do you have any suggestions on tinnitus, which is also pronounced tinnitus is the correct way to pronounce it. It's also called tinnitus. It's like a ringing in the ear." And I knew a little bit about it because I actually had an audiologist on my show, and he talked about it. But I wasn't that familiar with it, so I wound up doing a lot of research, and I turned around and did an entire show on it because I took a deep dive into it, and actually it kind of helped a lot of people. So if anybody out there, our next Deborah and I's next show will be next month. If you want to cover a particular topic, either contact Deborah or contact me, philgeorge@charter.net, and we can do a whole show on whatever you want. Because again, if you've got problems, the vast majority of people got problems, so maybe the same problem that you have. So it's, you could be helping other people and in addition helping yourself. So open invitation or email me, philgeorge@charter.net. A lot of times I'll just email you back or, we can start a conversation. So just an open invitation. Okay. So we want, I'm sorry, Deborah. So go ahead.
No, I'm waiting. I'd love to hear your strategies because it's one thing to know about these things, but it's another thing is how can we prevent it and what can we do to support our liver?
Okay, the easiest thing to do is to basically, if you're, what you want to do is you want to get the fat out of the liver. Okay, obviously, you want to get back to a nice clean liver. So the first thing you need to do is you need to stop eating 24/7. Okay, you could start eating, 3 meals a day. Obviously, you got to cut way back on the high glycemic carbs. The donuts, the sugar, and the rest of that. Oh, the other thing is the hardest thing I have with clients is to getting them off the sugar. So I have some healthy sugars I can give you. So again, email me philgeorge@charter.net. We have good substitutes that aren't going to raise your insulin or your blood sugar. So the easiest thing, one of the easiest things to do in addition to just cutting out unhealthy eating is something called intermittent fasting and time-restricted eating. So this goes back to the, to storing the ice cube trays in the freezer. So in order to get that fat out of your liver, you have to liberate the fat. And again, we're smart monkeys. So if we go to extended periods of time, and we run out of sugar, you're gonna want to start turning over that fat in your liver. So maybe and what'll happen is that'll start breaking down the fat in your liver, and slowly you'll detoxify your liver because you're using that fat for fuel in your liver. Deborah, so it's coming out of your liver a little bit at a time. So this is all over the place: intermittent fasting, time-restricted eating, and all that means is, remember, I talked at the beginning of the show, you can only be in one or two states. Either you can be in anabolism, where you're building up, you're storing the fat, or catabolism, where you're breaking it down. You're in one or the other. So you want to be in a catabolic state, where you go periods of time, you're going to start burning your own fat. The additional benefit of that, if you're a little bit overweight and you want to lose some fat, this is the perfect way to do it. Again, you get two forms of fuel. One of them is glucose, the other one is ketones, or from fat. So you're going to start burning your own fat. I think Dr. McCullough has a book called Fat for Fuel, and he talks a lot about this. But this is not only him. There's tons of people out there that talk about intermittent fasting. So basically, briefly, intermittent fasting is going at least 12 to 16 hours without eating. And that may sound a little difficult, but if you think about it, you should sleep 8 hours. You're not supposed to eat at least 3 hours before you go to bed, so that's 11. If you can hang in there the first 2 hours, you're pretty much in an intermittent fasting state. You're not eating for a period of time. You're going to exhaust the glycogen stores in your liver, and you're going to start burning the fat. Okay, so that's intermittent fasting. The other one is time-restricted eating, and that just means you eat all of your calories. You don't have to scrimp. You eat all your calories within a certain window. It could be 4 hours. So let's say you decide to eat everything, let's say, I don't recommend the morning because they've done studies on this. And the longer you can go without eating, if you can skip breakfast, even though they say breakfast is the most important meal of the day, actually that's a misnomer. That was made up by Kellogg's or some company like that. There's no medical fact behind that. So if you could wait until 11, maybe eat all your meals between 11 and 12, between a 2 or 3 hour period. Again, you're going extended periods of time without eating on that. And again, we can do this with baby steps. If you can't go that long, if you're going to do the intermittent fasting, maybe if you could only do 11 hours, maybe try to extend it out to another 15 minutes. Try to stretch it out. So that's if you look this up, if you look up non-alcoholic fatty liver disease anywhere, anybody's any kind of credibility, they're going to tell you those are the two main things: intermittent fasting, time-restricted eating. That's the best way. That's the best way to clean out your liver. The other thing you can do, talking about inflammation. Okay, so when I worked in the lab, we would have this at least a few times a month. We would have people coming in with liver toxicity, and the number one cause of liver toxicity is a Tylenol overdose. So what a lot of people don't realize.
What overdose?
Yeah, Tylenol overdose.
Oh, okay.
And the reason for that, people aren't trying to commit suicide, or maybe they are, but in most cases they're not. What happens, basically, the generic name for Tylenol is acetaminophen, okay? A lot of people don't know that, Deborah, and that they have acetaminophen in a lot of stuff. You're taking Tylenol straight up, right, Deborah, because you get a sore knee. But then you take your cough syrup, it's got acetaminophen in it, but you don't realize acetaminophen is Tylenol. You see what I'm saying? So yes. What happens, people will just take all the stuff. They have acetaminophen in sleep aids. They have acetaminophen in like so many things, but they don't, because Tylenol is the brand name, right? So they can't use Tylenol. They have to put acetaminophen, so people don't know that. So when they would come into the lab, what would happen is, again, I'm a clinical biochemist. I draw their blood, their AST, ALT, the liver enzymes are through the roof. Bingo, fatty liver disease. Not fatty liver disease, liver toxicity from acetaminophen overdose. What they would do is they would put an IV in them of a particular substance called N-acetylcysteine. And you can get that. I take that all the time, Deborah. I don't take it because I have fatty liver disease. I take it because what it does is it detoxifies the liver. Okay, so you can get that over the counter on a. It's called NAC is the abbreviation. But you got to be careful where you get your supplements from, because a lot of them are from China, India. They get no quality control. A lot of them have fillers in it. So if you're looking for good supplements, email me, philgeorge@charter.net. I curate all the supplements. I make sure that they're clean. I've got a good company that I use, and I'll give you my recommendations. The other thing I do with clients, and there's no charge for this, I'll give you a free consult. I'll look over all your supplements, and I change my business model. All you have to do, basically, you're going to order supplements anyway. If you order them through my particular site that I use, they pay me a commission on the supplements, so you don't pay me anything. So it's kind of win-win. I get paid, and you don't have to pay anything. So you can contact me, and I'll do a complete workup on your lab work. Recommend labs that the doctor should order that you're not ordering. But if you get type 2 diabetes, you get any kind of medical problem, I deal with people with a lot of psychological issues too, and that has a lot to do with diet and things like that. But yeah, so you can basically, the NACL system is good. The other thing with the NAC, a good thing to take along with that to help you is something is glycine at NAC. It's called Glynac, G-L-Y-N-A-C. It's just an abbreviation. Glycine is an amino acid, and those two together are the precursor, or they come before what they call glutathione. Glutathione is the master antioxidant. This goes in and cleans up your body. So I take this Glynac every day, actually twice a day, because what it does is reduces this glutathione, which is the master antioxidant, and it cleans it up. So again, that'll clean up your liver. It has a lot of antioxidant effects. It does a lot of good stuff. So there's simple things you can do in terms of supplements that you can take that are relatively inexpensive. And what it'll do is it'll clean up your body. It'll get you off this metabolic syndrome. And so that's kind of the long and short of it, Deborah. It's basically clean lifestyle. You need some supplements because it's almost impossible to get everything you need in your diet. And as you mentioned, Deborah, the other thing is they're finding out now because soil has been so depleted because they do what they call monocropping. They grow the same thing over and over again. We only have 50% of the minerals in the soil now that we did 50 years ago, Deborah. So 50%. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to get that stuff through food because our food sources have been so depleted.
Right. And then that's, as I said earlier on, is a huge problem. And I hope that they're addressing that. I'd love to see it in my lifetime where they've cleaned up. There's 800,000 chemicals in the USA. I'd love to see that cleaned up, baby food cleaned up. You can find it. You can find quality food, but you have to pay extra. But on the other side of the coin, you're not going to the doctors or taking the kids to the doctors that often because they're eating real food. But you have to search out for that and pay for it. And so it is. Well, we've come to the end of our show, and I want to thank you so much for being on this series with me. And everyone, go to Phil's site, wellnesswave.net, and as he has said, go philgeorge@charter.net, connect with him, and certainly listen to all of the archives and his shows as they come along, and videos as well. And thank you, Phil, for all your knowledge and depth. And until next time when we get together, au revoir.
Okay, thanks, Deborah.
You're welcome.
Are you seeking a clearer path to love? Then tune in to the Love by Intuition show next week. All designed to your highest good. To contact Deborah Beauvais, owner of Empowered Connections, call her at 508-226-1723. That's 508-226-1723. Or link on to lovebyintuition.com. Remember, we are all one, and we are all part of the miracle of love.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.